Okay, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a really quick and awesome video on how to get 4K quality Twixtor in After Effects. And I'm going to quickly show you the difference here. This is raw, so this is how the footage usually looks on the left. And this is after we're done applying Twixtor and scaling it up to 4K. So you can see that there is a huge quality difference and it just looks so much cleaner and better. You can use this in editing for YouTube Shorts and editing for TikTok or anything like that. It really makes your footage look really great. And here are a few other scenes that we have, and like the before and after is kind of insane. Right, so if you want footage that looks this good and I have the quickest and easiest way to do it, follow along, and yeah, it's pretty simple. So to get started, all we're going to do is get our footage that we're going to use. In our case, I have it right here, and just pre-compose it. I'm actually going to start right at the very beginning so you get every single step and don't get confused. So right click your footage, pre-compose, and select OK. Once you do that, double click so you're in that layer, and then just go select your layer and go layer, time stretch. Set it to a factor of 33 and select OK. Now drag the edge of this so that the only thing that's showing is your clip and there's no black frames or anything like that. And then just export it. So go File, Export, add to Adobe Media Encoder, or if you have just the built-in render queue, that also works. And export it into a folder that you're gonna remember. In my case, to save the render time, I've actually already rendered it out, and it is right here. So once you have your footage, you're gonna open up something called Flow Frames. Now this is a program that will basically take your footage. Let's say you're running it at 24 FPS. It's gonna upscale that to like 240 FPS or however much you want it to be. This is really good for applying Twixtor. It is free to download. I can't really walk you through the download because last time I did that, which was for the Suika game, I got a copyright strike. So if you type something in Google like download Flow Frames free, you'll be able to find some guide to help you download that. So just download Flow Frames. You shouldn't have to change too many settings. The only thing you're going to change is output FPS and speed. You want it to be at ×8. Right, so drag and drop your footage into there. It should show your input resolution and stuff here and the number of frames. And then just make sure it's exporting where you want it to export. So we want it to go here. Okay, and interpolate. So just give this a moment to run. It's gonna process your footage. And this is just the awkward silence as we let my computer slowly process. Here we go. And yeah, this is a pretty new channel, so if you guys have any videos or stuff you want to learn, please leave a comment and I will definitely make a video on it. Okay, almost done. Alright, perfect. So we have our footage here. You're not going to be able to see what the clip looks like because the frame rate is going to be so high. But drag and drop it back into your project. Alright, so perfect. We have that. I'm going to go back to where we were before. I'm going to drag it in. And just so you guys know, the composition I'm using right now is set to 60 FPS, so we can see more frames. So definitely have it at probably around 60 FPS if you don't. So here is our footage, and it might not look like much has changed, but if you look at the frame rate here, it's 191.81 now. So it's way higher than it was before. Before it was 23.9. So now we can apply Twixtor and it's gonna look really, really nice. So to apply Twixtor, right click, pre-compose, move all attributes, select your layer and hit Ctrl-Alt-T to time remap. Now go into your effects and presets and search for Twixtor and I have a preset here, and credit to the editor Koki for these settings here. What you're going to want to do is set your frame rate to 191.81, and this could vary depending on what happens after you use full frames. It could be, for example, 215, or it could be 239. Just make sure it matches your clip. And then motion vectors on best, image prep, delinearize. Both of these should be checked. Speed, you can set this to whatever you want. We're going to set this to 35. And then warping blend, warping forward flame interpretation on blend. And motion blur compensation should be 0. So just make sure you have those settings, and then open main background layer settings and make sure that this is at 100. Okay, so once you have those settings and we've just adjusted our speed, we can now see the difference after applying Twixtor. So let's give this a second to load. Right, so now we have Twixtor applied to it, and you can see it looks really, really clean. There's not too much warping or anything like that. If you do notice warping, you might have to play around with your speed a little bit, or you might have to try switching some of your settings around. But for the most part, it's pretty good, and there's very, very minimal warping. So we have Twixtor applied, it looks really good. What we need to do is upscale it to 4K so we get really, really high quality footage. Now, I like to put on my color correcting before. It just looks better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go layer, new, and I'm going to find adjustment layer. And apparently I'm blind because I can't find it. Okay, here. And I'm going to try to use the built-in plugins. Usually I would use, which one? Magic Blue Colors to 5, which is really, really good because it has the built-in guided color correction that you can use, and this sort of walks you through how to color correct without, because I'm not super experienced with color correcting, but this does literally all of it for you. But because most of you probably will not have that, we're going to use all the built-in stuff. So we're going to use levels, I'm going to throw in curves, I want luminetric color, and then I think I'm going to cheat a little bit and just use a little bit of finisher in there. So with curves, I like to pull down the dark areas a little bit, and I like to bump up my input black to maybe something like 15. And then in my basic color correction, I'm going to leave this, maybe going to increase my exposure a little bit. And then decrease my blacks, decrease my shadows. And we could go a little bit more. Okay. So this is a pretty basic color correct. We don't want to... A good point or tip is to always look at the skin color. You don't want to adjust that too much. But as long as it looks kind of regular, that's okay. And we got finisher on there. And I just want to double check if there's one more thing we can add. Unsharp mask, okay, so perfect. So we also want to add unsharp mask, which is here. And we're going to use this to crank up our contrast. And it's okay if you might notice a few pixels and stuff here, because once we upscale it, it's going to smooth everything out and it's going to adjust it. So it's okay if you have a little bit of pixelation or anything like that. So you can already see it looks a lot better. This is the before, this is the after. We're now going to export it, add it to Adobe Media Encoder. And let's find the folder we were using before, Twixtor 4K tutorial, and let's just call this After Twixtor, and render that out. Oh, I renamed the old file. Okay, we're gonna have to move it. That's the wrong thing. Alright, perfect. So we have it here. I'm gonna move it over into my folder. Close that, close that. After Twixtor. Alright, perfect. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna open up Topaz. Again, this is something that you can download for free. I cannot explicitly walk you through that because I will get a copyright strike. But if you search download Topaz free, you might potentially find a video that walks you through it. So I would recommend searching that up. But anyway, Topaz Video AI is a great way to upscale your footage, and it will do literally everything for you. So all we have to do is just check our output. This is what we want 4K, but in some cases you might be doing vertical content. You might need to select your width and height and set it yourself. In our case, we're just gonna select the 4K preset, 60 FPS is good. And we're gonna go down, and I've seen people use different ones. I personally prefer the fine-tune/enhance, and you're just gonna export it as, and put it back in that folder you were in before. Save it. And it's gonna zoom in really close, and you can see that we have a little bit of pixels between the bright and the dark areas. That's because we forced the contrast, but this should take care of all of that. So what's nice is this gives us a preview, and you can see how it smooths everything out, and you can see the difference already in our footage. Right, so it looks way better than it did before. So what we're gonna do now is we can actually just open this up and view it. And this is how our footage looks after. So if I drag this in, and I sort of do a side-by-side comparison with what we started with and what we ended with. This is after we have 4K, Twixtor, everything applied to it. And this is how it looks before. So we see a huge difference. This is almost incomparable. But this is probably the best and easiest way to get Twixtor 4K in your footage for any sort of edit you're working on. And I hope you guys enjoyed and could follow along. And if you could subscribe, like, comment, all that would be greatly appreciated.